In this episode, we'll look at the London Borough of Greenwich. We'll start off with nitrogen dioxide readings, and we'll have a look at Blackheath Hill in Blackheath. The site of the actual air quality monitoring site is in the middle of a whole load of 15-minute city tower blocks, with a few houses in a neighbouring street, and a tiny business centre, which is on the A2. It's a single carriageway with a bus lane in it. So we'll look at the nitrogen dioxide graph of 2023 to 2025. It shows there's been faults at September 23, 2024, and apart from that, just seasonal changes, and 2025 has higher reads than 2024. We will now look at nitrogen dioxide readings on the South Circular, which is West Thorn Avenue, the A205 in Eltham, which is right by the A2 flyover at a set of traffic lights, where there are houses, maisonettes and local retail nearby on a dual carriageway. So we'll look at the graphs from 2019 to 2021. There are seasonal changes, the faults during early 19 and 21, and it shows that the pandemic has made no difference at all. Next we'll look at 2021 to 2023. There are just again seasonal changes. There are faults during February and May 2022 for some reason. And finally, we'll look at 2023 to 2025. There are seasonal changes, and during the early part of this year, January and February, there seems to be faults, and it oddly drops out here and there. We will now look at the traffic light junction of Burrows Road and Plumstead Road on the A206. Burrows Road itself is a single lane road that has 15-minute tower blocks on Plumstead Road itself, along with housing developments which I suspect will be more 15-minute city tower blocks. Along that road you also have low-rise flats and local retail on the main road. So we'll look at nitrogen dioxide graphs from 2019 to 2021. This shows seasonal changes, the odd spike in 2019, which shows the pandemic made no difference whatsoever. Next we'll look at 2021 to 2023 with odd spikes here and there. Otherwise, nothing particularly special on those graphs. And finally, we look at 2023 to 2025, where 2025 is higher than 2024. Other than that, it's simply seasonal changes, and it shows that ULEZ has made no difference at all. We will now look at John Harrison Way in Greenwich, in the middle of the 15-minute city hellhole, where there are two schools, one on each side of each other, where the air quality monitoring station is. The road itself is a 20-mile-per-hour zone with a single-lane traffic and a bus lane on a dual carriageway. So look at the graphs from nitrogen dioxide from 2018 to 2020. The general seasonal changes apart from a fault that occurred during March 2019. Next we'll look at 2020 to 2022. Seasonal changes apart from odd spikes, which basically shows that the pandemic made no difference whatsoever. Now we look at 2022 to 2024. Again, just seasonal changes, apart from that, nothing special whatsoever. And finally, we look at 2023 to 2025. Again, just seasonal changes, and there's a slight fault during part of February this year in 2025, which shows ULEZ has made no difference whatsoever. We will now look at the A206 Trafalgar Road in Greenwich, right by Hoskins Street, at a set of traffic lights. In the area there are local retail, very few trees, a petrol station, houses in nearby streets, and a few flats. The traffic in one lane in either direction, intermittent bus lane, which is near the University of Greenwich, the old Royal Naval College, and is also near the National Maritime Museum. So we'll look at nitrogen dioxide graphs starting from 2018 to 2020, where there are seasonal changes. So there was a fault during late October 2018 to November 2018. Then we look at the graphs from 2020 to 2022. Again, there are seasonal changes, the odd spikes in 2021. There's fault part of March 2021, which shows the pandemic made no difference whatsoever. Then we look at 2022 to 2024. There's a fault from January to mid-May 2023, on and off. Other than that, nothing particularly special about it. And 2023 to 2025, It's pretty much the same again, seasonal changes, odd faults described before, where 2025 is higher in places than both 2023 and 2024, which shows ULEZ has made practically no difference whatsoever. We will now look at Plumstead High Street, the A206 in the middle of Plumstead, where the centre I suspect is right by the petrol station, and nearby is Bannockburn Primary School, consisting of a few flats, houses, hardly any trees, local retail in both directions, bus route and Plumstead Police Station. So look at the graphs from 2019 to 2021. There's seasonal changes with odd spikes here and there, as fault during 2019, during May, which shows that the pandemic's made hardly any difference whatsoever. Then we look at the graphs from 2021 to 2023, which basically consists of seasonal changes. Other than that, it's nothing particularly special. And again, during 2023 to 2025, we see seasonal changes in the graphs, with the exception that 2025 is higher than 2023 and 2024, which shows that ULEZ has made no difference whatsoever. We will now look at the very busy five-way junctions in New Eltham controlled by traffic lights, which is at the A20 Sidcup Road, B263 Green Lane, as well as other roads as well. Within the area there's a Premier Inn hotel, a petrol station, houses, flats, as well as local retail. So look at the only graph that is available for nitrogen dioxide. It's in 2023 to 2025. It's basically seasonal changes, with 2025 is higher than 2023 and 2024, albeit with faults during parts of April 23, May 23, June 23, and also during 2024 in April, July, August and most of December. But nevertheless, it shows that ULEZ around that area has made no difference at all. We will now look at the Woolwich flyover on the A102, which flies over the A206. This both happens to be Woolwich Road and Trafalgar Road. Around the area there are houses, IKEA and flats below with a few trees. So look at the graphs of nitrogen dioxide from 2019 to 2021. There are seasonal changes, the fault during mid-March 2020 to mid-April 2020. Other than that, it shows the pandemic had no difference whatsoever. Then we look at 2021 to 2023. Was fault during May 2023, and also a fault about mid-September 23 all the way to February 2024, and there's also a fault between mid-March and mid-April 2023, so it could be the census half dying, who knows. And finally we look at 2023 to 2025, again seasonal changes despite the faults. There's 2023 as mentioned, but 2025 seems to be sort of working about there. But I think it just shows that ULEZ hasn't really worked. So, as you can see from the graphs. We will now look at PM2.5 particulate matter within the London Borough of Greenwich. We will start at Westthorne Avenue on the South Circular, right by the A2 flyover, controlled by traffic lights, and we'll look at particulate matter PM2.5 graphs from 2019 to 2021, where there are just seasonal changes, despite odd faults during March 2020 and mid-April to about May 2020 and July 2021. But in short, it shows that the pandemic has no effect whatsoever in terms of so-called air pollution. Next, we'll look at the graph from 2021 to 2023. There are generally, again, seasonal changes, despite faults during March to November of 2022, odd working bits here and there. And finally we'll look at 2023 to 2025. Again there are seasonal changes, a few odd faults during 2023 and 2024 and odd faults during 2025. But judging by air quality data from other sites, it generally shows that ULEZ has done absolutely nothing to improve air quality. We will now look at PM2.5 particulate matter data at the junction between the A206 Plumstead Road and Borough Grove. It's at the traffic lights. So we start the graphs from 2019 to 2021. There are seasonal changes. There's a fault during September 2019, but other than that, it shows the pandemic's had no effect whatsoever. Next, we'll look at the graph between 2021 to 2023. Again, general seasonal changes, the spark from faults from April to mid-October 2023. And finally, we look at 2023 to 2025. Again, seasonal changes, where 2025 is higher than 2024, as well as some parts of 2023, which shows that ULEZ has made practically no difference whatsoever. We will now have a look at PM2.5 particulate matter data at John Housen Way, right near the Blackwall Tunnel. So we'll start looking at 2018 to 2020. There's been seasonal changes apart from the fault during October and November 2020. Other than that, it shows the pandemic has had no effect on air quality whatsoever. Next, we'll look at the graph between 2020 and 2022. There's been odd faults during January and February 2021, as well as March 21, September 21, and intermittent faults between March and August 2022. But it does show that the pandemic's had no effect whatsoever. Then we look at the graphs from 2022 to 2024. Again, seasonal changes with intermittent faults between July and December 2023. This basically shows that ULEZ hasn't worked at all, and this has been confirmed by looking at 2023 to 2025. There's general seasonal changes, faults as before, but 2025's readings are higher than they were in 2024, which shows that ULEZ has made no difference whatsoever. We will now have a look at PM2.5 particulate matter readings at the junction of Trafalgar Road and Hoskins Street on the A206. So we'll look at the graphs from 2018 to 2020. It's general seasonal changes with the odd spike and a bit of a fault during late October 2018 to November 18. But in short, it shows that the pandemic's had no effect on air pollution whatsoever. Next, we'll look at the graphs between 2020 to 2022. General seasonal changes apart from a fault during March 2021, another fault during June 21, and again between July and August 2022, and towards the end of November 2022 to December 22. But apart from that, it shows the pandemic's had no effect on air pollution whatsoever. Next, we'll look at graph between 2022 to 2024. Again, seasonal changes. Faults already mentioned during 2022. And also a little fault during 2023, but apart from that, pretty much seasonal changes. And finally, we'll look at 2023 to 2025. Again, seasonal changes, fault already mentioned during 2023 and 2025. Actually, the readings are higher in places than they have been. So in short, ULEZ has done absolutely nothing about air quality. We will now have a look at the PM2.5 particulate matter data in Plumstead High Street. So we'll start with the graphs in 2019 to 2021. The general seasonal changes, the general sort of faults between February and March 2021, little bits between April 21, June 21, September 21, and intermittent faults between November 21 and December 21, as well as a fault during July 2019 and August, September 2020. But despite all of this, it shows that lockdowns had no effect on air quality whatsoever. Next, we'll look at the graphs between 2021 to 2023. Despite intermittent faults, it shows that pretty much it's seasonal changes, despite faults from March to June 2022, and intermittent faults between June 23 to October 2023, and a complete fault between October 23 to November 23. Finally, we'll look at the graphs between 2023 to 2025 with general seasonal changes, and 2025's readings are higher than 2024, which shows that ULEZ has had no effect on air quality whatsoever. Finally, we have a look at particulate matter data for the Woolwich flyover on the A102. So we'll start with the graphs in 2019 to 2021, which is general seasonal changes apart from a fault for a very short time during May 2019. A fault from mid-August 21 to the end of October 21, but other than that, it shows that the pandemic's had absolutely no effect on air quality whatsoever. Next, we'll have a look at the graphs from 2021 to 2023. This is generally seasonal changes despite various faults during January, March, May, August, October, and early December 2022. It went up to the end of April 2023, then followed by another fault June 23, July 23, to early December 2023. But I think that the actual sensor may be slightly dying. But as of elsewhere, it's proven that air quality has not been impacted by ULEZ whatsoever. And we'll look at the graphs in 2023, 2025. It's got extremely sporadic data, which suggests that the sensor could be dying. There's no data from 2025 at all.